How can smart people argue for a tax cut? Oh my, dude, this is so funny. All right, so this is Alicia Manel writing over at she actually wrote, I don't know, I just saw it in Morning Star. And Alicia Manel from the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, which gets funding from the Social Security Administration. At least it did. I presume it still does now. I don't know. But I just chuckle at this because she's all worried about the federal debt. Is she going to give away the money back that the Center for Retirement Research gets from the federal government? No, she won't. We need to get our fiscal house in order, she says, not make matters worse. All right. In this new world, I've expanded my podcast listening to try to understand the other team. And high on my list is the All In podcast by a group of 4 high-tech venture capital hosts. That's understanding the other side there, Alicia, by listening to freaking rich venture capital. Right now, they are 3 because one of the guys, David Sacks full of money, has become the White House AI and crypto czar. Their angle seems to be that less regulation, more support for AI and other technological advances will lead to a bigger economic pie and more stuff for the middle class. And I would argue against that vociferously, if that's the right way to say it. I mean, AI is going to help the middle class, maybe, but I think we have more pressing needs. And I'll do a video later on the real fear you should have. And we're going to talk about this, a large power transform in the U.S. electrical grid. You want to talk about a real fear? It's not, or a real benefit to the middle class. The fear and the benefits come in with our electric grid, and we're going to talk about that in another video because it's quite threatening. AI in of itself isn't the solution. I mean, hey, man, more power to them. But, oh, by the way, what does AI rely on? Oh, electricity generation. Shocking. Without electricity generation, there is no AI, and you're not going to get electrical generation on solar panels. Never mind the evil of wind turbines. Interestingly, these guys don't seem like ideologues, and they don't like it when Trump does mean stuff, but she's going to expand her podcast and listen to the other side. See, I like when Trump does mean stuff, and I like ideologues because they say where their bases are. They say, this is where I stand. These rich guys who just want money, they don't care. I mean, they got no soul, man. And that includes Elon Musk. I mean, he's on our side for now. Tomorrow he might be on the other side. I don't know. I mean, I'll take him for what it's worth, but that's not an ideologue. Everybody stretches the imagination. Interestingly, this group has discovered that the U.S. faces a major issue with regard to the federal budget and appears to support by efforts by Musk and his Dodge minions to cut spending to avoid a meltdown. What seems astonishing to me, says Alicia, is that the fiscal situation should come as news. Come on. It's just, do you think they did not know we have a fiscal issue? The group does not seem to understand how the federal government spends its money. Okay. And they never question the wisdom of a major tax cut that will increase deficits and debt even further. And the funny thing is the anti-tax cut people like Alicia Manel would never question the idea of a tax hike increasing revenue to the government, even though just because you tax something doesn't mean you get more of it, Alicia. So we have this, I completely agree. You know, this with tax cut will benefit, we don't know that. I mean, the Laffer curve did because the tax rates were so exorbitantly high. Now the tax rates are quite low. There's no real, in fact, many people pay no federal income tax. And a tax cut, what does it do? What does it do for the people, a significant portion of the wealthy people? What do they do with the money? Do they actually use it to consume? No, they increase their investments in other things like real estate and stock market. We know this, man. I mean, this is not really debatable anymore, frankly. When you give a stimulus check to rich people, they don't use it to do anything other than invest. They don't consume it. They don't spend it. And that's what a stimulus check is supposed to be for, is to spend for consumption, personal consumption expenditures, PCE, which 70% of our GDP is based on personal consumption expenditures. So what happens with a stimulus check for the rich people is they say hoard it because they're not really hoarding it, but they're investing it. What happens with a stimulus check for me and you, most likely you either consume it or you'll pay off debt, one of those two things. Both are actually inflationary, all right? Because debt is inherently deflationary because you have the money now, you got to pay it back, which means it takes money away from consumption because you've already consumed it. And so when you have a chance to pay off debt, you're going to pay off debt. In of itself, that doesn't increase consumption, but it allows other income that you would have used towards debt payments to now go to consumption. So a stimulus check for you and I, just regular people, is absolutely inflationary. without question. And I'm not saying inflation like freaking hyper. I'm just saying basically that will increase spending, and thus that could increase your personal consumption expenditures, which is what GDP is based on. All right, so I get that. A tax cut for the uber wealthy doesn't do much. All right, I completely get that. So anyway, so right here, right here? Our fiscal situation did not emerge overnight, and here's this lack of economic knowledge. Crud is insane. We have moved steadily from riches to rags since 2001. When the government ran surplus and was scheduled to pay off the national debt by 2009. I had never heard that ever, because I'd never heard that we're going to pay off the national debt by 2009. I know with the Republican Congress, all right, we did not run surpluses while Clinton and the Democrats were in charge. Not anywhere near that. We had a Republican Congress in 1994, and they put the reins on Bill Clinton's spending. That is just a fact. And I know that for a fact. And we had the Republican Congress with Clinton, by the way. They did have a couple of years of tiny surpluses. They weren't paying off the debt by 2009. Let's just take a look, shall we? The total public debt from when the Republicans took over in 1994, they really didn't assume office until 1995. So it had we'll just say $5 trillion of public debt when the Republicans took over. And by the time they left, when Clinton left, they had 5.773. So they did not pay off the debt. It's like so dumb, man. They did not pay it off. They still expanded. In fact, let's just go. We can even put it right here. We can go to right here. Can economists just like act like just normal people for once, as opposed to putting everything in their political? It's just crazy to me. Okay, 2000, yeah, January 2. Well, we'll go to 2001 right there. All right, right there. All right, so there's the public debt. Oh, why is it not going? I thought I did right there. All right, there we go. We're gonna go to boink, boink, boink. Boink, when the Republicans took over in January. There we go. Look at that. Public debt was going up. Yes, it was. It's not going to be paid off in 2000 and whatever she said, 9. It's just stupid. The Bipartisan Committee for Responsible Federal Budget has done a wonderful analysis for the policy changes that have contributed to the nation's fiscal deterioration. See figure 1. All right, let's see figure 1 here. Let's see what they say. And indeed, the deterioration has been a bipartisan effort of major tax cuts and spending increases that has moved us from paying off the federal debt to having a deficit equal to about 100% of GDP. Of course, debt becomes more burdensome when interest rates rise. Okay, and this is where the MMT people make sense. Who gets the benefit of federal interest? The people who own federal bonds. Who owns federal bonds? You and I! Crazy, the federal government does. You and I do. The pension funds, the insurance companies, as American citizens who own federal debt, we get the interest of the federal government. That's just a fact. Anyway. Oh my goodness, we can't have a high economy when GDP is at over 100% debt to GDP. And I'm looking back to earlier days when the federal debt was 30% of GDP in the 70s. You're like, inflation was eating us alive. But okay, whatever, Alicia, whatever. In terms of how the government spends money, personnel costs are a tiny, tiny fraction of the total. Here's where they always say. They always go back to, it's just a small cost. Yeah, but small cost adds up to big cost. Does not? Yes, of course it does. All right. It's just a tiny, tiny cost. Basically, the federal government has been described as an insurance company with a standing army. We spend our money on retirement health benefits for the aged and those with disabilities. I completely agree. The two other major components are defense spending and interest on debt. Personal costs consist of 4% of outlays. Well, that's still more than we like. We don't need 4% of personal costs if many of these people aren't doing crap. So let's get rid of them. Why is it always the federal government when they cut back, people scream bloody murder? But when coal miners cut back, they're like, if jobs cut back, learn the code. Why don't we? It's great because the federal government is white collar workers. And people like Alicia love white-collar workers, highly educated, credentialed white-collar workers, and they cannot stand blue-collar workers. But blue-collar workers make them a little bit nervous because they've never been around them. They never said, they make me nervous. They're not as sophisticated as us here in Harvard and Cambridge and Boston College and Newton, Massachusetts. Let's see. Randomly firing federal government employees is not going to solve anything. Yeah, it will solve stuff. Absolutely. And all it causes disruption in services. Okay, as the services before were great. Do the people just live in a day-to-day thing? Do you not know how long it took to get to somebody on Social Security or the IRS before Elon Musk and his minions start cutting? It's just so freaking stupid. Finally, how can anyone who pretends to be concerned about the nation's fiscal situation by the way, I was going to say something, Alicia. The defense is one of the biggest expenditures. You would then agree that we should start pulling back our commitments to Ukraine, our commitments to the EU, our commitments to NATO, right? And start saying we're not going to have bases anymore in Lithuania where four servicemen from Fort Stewart died. We're not going to do that anymore. Let Europe take care of Europe. We're going to pull them back and significantly reduce our defense budget. You would agree with that, right, Alicia? That we can significantly reduce our defense budget by not being the defense of the world. Yeah, right, right? We don't need to be in Zimbabwe. We don't need to be in Somalia. We don't need to be in Libya. We don't need to be freaking anywhere else, right? Right? We could pull back our bases because I think we have military personnel in like 180 countries or something like that. Yeah, that's costing somebody. According to CBO, the government currently slated to run a fiscal deficit to equal 6.2% of GDP. I wonder if Alicia was saying the same thing when Biden was spending money like crazy. I just wonder. I bet she was not because, it's good if I do it, it's bad if they do it. You know what I'm saying? So, like the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a massive payoff to Green Lobby. I wonder if Alicia said anything about that. No. Right here. Let's keep going. As a result of these persistent deficits, debt swells. Federal debt in the hands of the public rises from 100% this year to 118% in 2035, greater than any point of our nation's history. Oh my goodness. And what's the Japan debt to GDP ratio, Alicia? Is Japan still running a solid economy? I think they're still living okay. And one of the reasons why is because they don't have massive government spending in terms of defense obligations. Weird. Importantly, these projections assume that most of the tax cuts expire. If these tax cuts are not allowed to expire, the ratio of debt to GDP will increase even more. All right, so anyway, the whole point is she's worried about the debt to GDP. I've heard this a million times a Sunday, but they never talk about the spending. It's always about the tax cuts. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was a big benefit to middle-class taxpayers, Alicia. It just was. I think, Alicia, you know what we should do? We should start taxing the endowments. If you're so worried about debt to GDP, start taxing the endowments. Start taxing nonprofits like the Trumpster is doing. He said things to the IRS to make sure the Harvard University no longer is tax-free. That's a way we can win. Frank, and I agree. I would raise taxes on the uber wealthy, the 0.01%. I got no qualm with that at all. None whatsoever. I agree with that. Let's raise taxes on those people and use the proceeds to fund Social Security increases for everyone else. I got no qualm with that at all. And I would also tax the foundations. I'd also tax all non-charitable and non-government entities and all nonprofits 100%. I get no qualm with that at all. I am not worried about the debt to GDP, not in the least. I am worried about our ability to maintain a self-sufficient economy because we have this huge over-reliance on bad actors, China and the European Union, because they don't like us. You think the European Union likes America? You think they do? No, they don't. Let's be self-sufficient and let's not rely on these people. More to come. All right, God bless. Love your thoughts. We'll see you.